All right. What is up, Webflow? Let me show you what we're getting into today. Today we are going to build a slider that's powered by CMS. So these pictures here are coming from the CMS system, and we're gonna build it with Splide, which is a JavaScript library. If you've ever done this with the Webflow native slider, you'll realize it's kind of a hacky solution. You have to use multiple collection lists and tell it which slide number you want to use. So we're going to use Splide, and I'm going to show you how to do it. We are going to customize the navigation here, as well as the next and previous arrows. We're going to jump into Code Sandbox. We're going to write this code here. I'm going to go over these pretty much all one by one, and it's not going to be a copy paste job. I've got an empty Webflow project here. We're going to be starting from scratch. And what I'm going to do is we're at splitejs.com here, and I'm going to walk you through the documentation of how you could do this all yourself so that hopefully you have a better understanding of how Splide works. And yeah, we don't have to copy paste anything. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, I have empty Webflow project. I did populate the CMS with this Teams. It has 5 records in here. All it has is the name, the slug, an image that I got from Unsplash, and a job. I don't even use the job. So we just have these. We want to pull these from the image. You could, customize the CMS however you want. All right, back to our page. Start with kind of a basic structure. Make this section. We'll add another div. Call this container. I think I already built the container. Yeah, so it just has a width of 100%, max width of 56 rem, and then press this button here, and it's going to apply auto to all sides to center it. Let's add I also have page padding. Page padding just has 5% padding on each side. So I'm going to chuck that in the container. And let's put some vertical padding in there as well. Oops, Padding, we'll call it padding vert. And I don't know, we'll start with 4 rem on either side. Okay. Now, I'm just going to drag a div block. This is kind of be our wrapper, but I'm going to name it something else. I will show you what we're going to name it. Let's also get our collection list, put it in there. Source, we want that to pull from Teams. And so we have 5 items in our teams here. Going to just put an image inside of that. Let's get our image. Get image from teams. Going to pull it from the image field, and we'll see these start to populate. Okay, they're definitely a lot bigger than we want. I'm going to do some basic styling in Webflow, but you also see later that Splide will handle some of the styling for us. So back here, I want to take the collection list. I'm going to apply flexbox to that. We'll do horizontal. Let's give it well, I'm not going to give it any gap. We got everything in there. Let's style the image. So let's call this image. And we want the width to be 100%. And we'll give it let's give them all same height. 12 rem, something bigger. Let's go with 20 for now. We definitely don't want that stretch, so let's fit this to cover. And we will give it a border radius of 100 VW, give it that cool little pill shape. So we set them all to 100%. This one obviously has a different width. What we can do is set a width on the parent collection item. Let's set the width to 33%. And that way they're all going to be the same width. And then what else do we want to do? Oh yeah, if we give them no sizing, then it'll fill up 33% of the collection list box here. So that's going pretty good. And then what else do we want to do? Actually, you see there's that little bit of overhang there? So what we should do is say 100 divided by 3%. And then we should be exact. Perfect. Something we can do is come to Splide here and give this overflow none. I'm just going to leave it for now. And so we've got everything in there. If we go ahead and publish, going kind of slow today, so maybe I'll work in parallel. I'll let that publish while we head over to the Splide documentation. We're going to get started. Installation, so we're not going to use npm. we are not going to download. We're going to use a CDN. So we'll click this button here. And we want this top one, splide.min.js. So we're going to copy the HTML. And then we're going to, oops, that's the example. Let me pull this over here because we're not going to use it later, and the code. Now we'll come into the home settings, and we're going to go before the closing body tag. We're going to just paste that. So we're grabbing Splide, and we're going to get version 4 here. Looks like is what they're serving us. And we'll go ahead and save that. Let me check on our publish. So publish is good. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so we've got a page, and you'll notice we have horizontal scroll just because it's overflowing the page, but we're not going to worry about that just yet. Come on down. Integration, we don't need importing CSS. So we're going to want to get some of the Splide CSS. And oh yeah, we can pull that from the JS deliver here. You see it's in dist/CSS. I think it tells us where to get that. Yep. You will see several CSS files in dist CSS and themes. I'm just going to use the basic CSS. In another one of my videos, I showed a Splide slider using a theme. It's just kind of all the CSS done for you if you don't care. But I find that usually people care. So we'll grab this Splide core. I'm going to copy the HTML. And since this is CSS, we'll place it inside the head tag. So you see we're getting CSS, a .css file here. Should be a link tag. Yep, and it's telling it it's a style sheet. Okay, so we're getting that. And HTML, this is actually telling us how Splide is structured. So this is important because Splide is looking for these classes. So we have a overall section with the class of Splide, div with the class of Splide, and then we have this unordered list component, and then each list item inside of the unordered list is the slide. And it says down here, insert any contents inside uh, the class of Splide__slide elements such as images and text. You can use div in lieu of section, UL, and unordered list and list item. So I'm just going to use divs because that's what we have from our CMS collection. So let's go ahead, track, list, and slide. So I'm going to copy Splide__track, and we're going to apply that to the collection list wrapper. And then this one's going to be list. Let's, we've already done a little bit of styling, so we'll just rename this Splide list. And this was what, slide or, yeah. Splide slide. And then this top level just has to have a class of Splide. All right. So we have duplicated this. That is good. Let's keep going. Now we have to apply Splide. I'll go ahead and publish again. Actually, before I publish, I'm going to set up a empty code sandbox. Bring that over here. We'll start new sandbox, static. Make a new file, call it index.js. And we want the code, so it's serving the code at this URL. So we'll go ahead and copy that. And back in Webflow, we're going to go back into our code settings, open a script tag, set the source to that, and then specify the file, which is index.js, and close the script tag. Uh-oh, what are you not happy about? I forgot a T over here. Cool. Webflow code editor saving me. I just did a video on how bad it was. I take it all back. I don't take it all back. Okay, so now we're publishing. Let's come into what we've got here. We have nothing because we still haven't initialized Splide, right? I mean, if we look, we can see something's still there, but we don't know what we're doing. What did I want to show you? Just go check our sources. This is the one, so we're loading up our code, but it's actually nothing. So this is the old example. I'm going to keep that closed. If we just console log loaded, we can make sure and save. Look, loaded appears here. So we know that we're loading our code into Webflow. So let's go back to getting started. And we don't need the script tags here. We just want this whole block of code here. DOM content loaded essentially means when all the HTML has been loaded. Look in the MDM if you want more, the MDM documentation if you want more info on that. And then we're just specifying what's called an anonymous function as the second argument to the add event listener function. And we're defining the function where it creates a new Splide element, and then it runs the mount function on that Splide item. So copy paste that whole thing. God, I keep clicking the wrong one. Sorry about that. Hopefully that's not confusing. We're going to save, and let's see if our slider shows up. Yeah, we've got a basic slider here. So that's great. You can see it's got previous and next buttons, and it's got some pagination stuff going on down here. But we are going to need to fix that. And again, like I said, Splide is controlling a lot of the styling. So that's why this is all stretched and wide, whereas what we have in Webflow, it's not. So it's overriding the width. We specified that width of 33% on Splide slide, but the default Splide options are overriding that. So let's see how we can fix that. We're not going to do multiple carousels. We're not going to do themes. We talked about that, but these are kind of the out of the box themes you can get from default. Is nice. Sky blue. Sure, you could probably change that color really easily. You get this nice little thumbnail track here. And sea green. So different things you can do. Okay, options. This is going to be a lot of what we're doing today. This looks familiar. You can specify some options with a JavaScript object, which is this here, specifying here type loop and per page 3. So per page is what's going to be the option that specifies how many we have showing. So I'm just copying that, copy pasting that here with the options now, and we'll go back and we'll see we should get 3 on here. So that's great. And now it's showing 3 per page. And let's continue. It's still looking pretty ugly, so we're going to do some quick improvements. And look, you have all these options here, so they list them all here. So let's start going through and just customizing a little bit. Type, I'm going to leave it as loop. Roll, we don't need to check. Label, we don't need to change. Label by. Rewind, so we can look at this. This determines whether it rewinds to the end, but we have loop on. So we're just going to, as it says, does not work in the loop mode. So we'll just leave it on loop mode. Speed determines the transition in milliseconds. So to edit that, I would just put a comma here. Speed. Let's make it something pretty noticeable. And refresh. You can see it's slower now. Let's change it back to something a little bit snappier. Great. Keep running through this. Rewind speed, again, said we're not doing rewind. Well, I'll show you that. How about we do that? Let's say rewind true, but we know it doesn't work in loop, so we'll change this to slide mode. And we'll save and refresh. And now it rewinds. And we've got slide mode on. And we can set rewind speed. I don't, what's the default? Speed values used as the default. I think that's fine. But we could specify something else, do it faster. Refresh. Okay, that's done. Rewind by drag allows users to rewind a carousel by drag. It already has drag functionality included, which is pretty cool. So not going to touch that. Width defines a carousel max width accepting CSS format. I'm not going to work on that because we've already specified a width. Same with height. Fixed width, I may get into this later. You'll notice right now we have, well, we don't. You don't notice. So yeah, I'll get to this later. Fixed width, height ratio, auto width, auto height, start. We can change the slide that it starts at. So say start, I don't know, 3. Actually, I think that might affect the page, not the actual slide. But you can see it starts at a different slide now. So let's erase that. Per page, we already got that one. We're 3. We change this to 2. You can see now we'll have 2 per page. Let's leave that at 3 per move. I'm gonna probably get into styling the arrows and the pagination now, because once we have that working better, then a lot of this other stuff will be handier, I think. Okay. So did I change it back to 3? Yes, I did. Oh, the one I did want to find though is gap. We can say gap, and we'll just say 1 rem. And what's cool is that Splide is going to auto calculate that gap so that the 3 still fit perfectly within our slider. And you'll notice we didn't have to specify any overflow hidden within Webflow. It actually did it automatically. So we're good with that. Let's go ahead and start working on the pagination and the next and previous buttons. So back in Splide, I'm going to come to the end of the options page here and go to the next page, which is structure. So we kind of already looked at that. Structure, arrows, and pagination. These are the 2 we want to look at. So let's dive into these arrows first. This is the HTML that the page generates. So it's expecting a button, some Splide arrow, and then a wrapper called Splide arrows. So let's go ahead and we will copy and paste this. And now I'm actually going to do this outside. I'll copy and paste this section. And I'm just going to delete the CMS. And I'll make another div. Oh, can't copy and paste because I lost it when I did the CMS. Get this again. Come back to Webflow. Copy and paste that in. And then we have 2 children there, which are buttons. And they have Splide arrow and Splide arrow underscore underscore, or sorry, dash dash. Let's go back in here. Let's make a button. Splide arrow. I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to get rid of the text. I'm going to set specific width and height on them. And I got this arrow from Flat Icon, just a fancy next arrow. And we're not going to drag that in there, actually. We're going to use it as a background image so that it applies to both of them. Choose image, we'll get the arrow. We don't want any repetition. We want it to be in the middle. Let's make it like 50%. Cool. And then we want to change the color. Let's grab something from, I got an opacity set on that, so I don't really want to grab that. I like this pink. What about this? Let's do that. Da, da, da. And border radius, we'll give that, I want it to be a circle, so 50%. And let's give it a little hover effect. So on hover, we will just provide a filter, brightness, I don't know, 115. 120 looks good. All right, so we've got our arrow. We'll go back to none. We can apply a transition to that hover effect. Background color, give it 300. Let's see how that looks. Still going. Oh, because I did filter, that's why. It was going automatic. I need to transition the transform. Did I apply that? Where am I? Where am I? Not the transform, the filter. Sorry about that. Okay. Now we're getting that 300 millisecond kind of effect. Great. Back into the hierarchy here. Let's take this and we're going to flex it and center it. Perfect. We'll just align the middle as well. Let's apply a gap of 1 rem there. And let's add our combo classes now. So we have Splide arrow previous. That's going to be this one. And this one, we're going to give it a transform, rotate it 180 degrees so that it points the other way. This one, we'll give it next. All right. So we've built the general styling here. And let's see what that gives us. Okay, we've got these buttons. They're not perfect. What are we screwing up? It's automatically throwing an SVG in there, is what's going on. You know what? I'm just going to keep those. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I was pretty sure these wouldn't show up. Let's see. Just going to look at my other project real quick. I think what we need to do is actually put the arrows within up here. So now we can position them where we want them. We want them down here. We have our Splide track. Let's give that a, well, let's actually go to this one here and give it padding on 1 rem on each side. And let's publish that now. And I think that will override the SVGs. Wow. Cannot read properties of undefined reading style. Oh man, I'm screwing it all up. Let's see if we have everything. Oh, this is because it's all one. I need to cut that and now make it a combo class. There we go. We're working now. Sorry about that. Sometimes your boy messes up, but hopefully it's important to see how I debug. Yeah, I'm always learning, right? Okay, and you notice these don't show up. These are just kind of a style sheet that we're using right now to style the actual buttons. So what's happening is that we're styling them, and then Splide is running some code and generating these pagination buttons. Sorry, these previous and next buttons, and then the pagination as well. So let me just make sure this is working how we want. Looks good. And it's rewinding, so that's why it looks kind of funky. And we only have 5 images in there, so maybe we will get rid of the rewind. Save, refresh. And it's slide now, so it goes to the end and stops. But we can just loop it. Change this to loop, save. The connection's pretty bad today. I could also make these a lot smaller, but I think some of them are like 600 kilobytes. Don't do that. Okay. Let's get working on the pagination. I think we're good with the arrows here. There's a lot of other ways you can customize the arrows. I found that to be kind of the easiest way. Oh, something as well. Let me see. So this should be I'm working on accessibility. It should be able to navigate, but these aren't actually button elements. The Webflow button element is an anchor tag. So something we should do is grab an embed. I know, tricky Webflow. Where's our embed? There it is. And we'll go back to arrows, and we'll just copy button. I don't need all this stuff, but yeah, we want the class, we want the type. Just delete that. I think I can get rid of all this stuff too. See how that works. And then let me copy paste this embed. And this one's going to be next. Oops. Save and close. And now I can delete these and publish. Where are we at? 26 minutes? Okay. Speed it up, Keegan. Great. And now these should be, yeah, we can press spacebar and actually work with them. There's a note in here that it expects them to be buttons and different class types. So you can put, yeah, note that each arrow must be a button to receive focus and have a disabled attribute. So you'll notice when this was, slide, it didn't disable when I got to the end. So I'm hoping this shows that it'll actually disable. Well, it is disabled because it's not showing a pointer, but I don't actually give it a style when it's disabled. And that's why it doesn't look different. But you could definitely style it if you wanted to. Okay, let's get back to business. Back to code, change this back to loop. I'm going to say we're done with arrows for now. So we want to do pagination next. And similar to how we did it, we have to has an unordered list followed by list item and then buttons for each pagination page. So what I'm going to do is not copy and paste the whole thing. I'm just going to copy and paste this time. And we'll go back into Webflow and come down here. And where am I? Within Splide, call this Splide Pagination. Actually, this needs to be an unordered list, right? Yeah, unordered list. So let me delete that real quick. Got a list. Throw it in here. Unordered, great. Come outside of that, you're a sibling. Give you the correct class name. Give you the correct combo class. Sorry, I'm not clicking the right tab every time. Hopefully, I'm going to remove the Webflow default padding because we don't want any of that. And the bottom margin, so those are both 0 now. And then we have 3 list items. I only want 2. Those are each going to get Splide __ pagination __ page. And you'll see the active one gets this combo class is active. So let's go ahead and copy paste that too. We will make the first one our is active, but we want to start styling the default one. So let's give it a background color, something like that. Actually, we don't want any sort of dots. Sorry, I meant a background color. That was text color. Let's give it a width of 2 rem and a height of 0.5 rem. Give it some background color so we can actually see it. Let's change the border radius to 100 VW so it has this nice pill shape. Let's apply flex to our pagination and no bullet style flex, and we'll center. Give them a gap a little bit smaller. Let's do 0.5 rem. So, and this is our inactive one, so let's just go ahead and drop the opacity. I don't like that. Let's actually change the color. Just bring it more towards white. That looks pretty good. And now is active is the one that should have the nice color there. All right. Let's go ahead and drag these up here too. We definitely don't want them there. We want the pagination right there. Let's give it 0.5 rem on each side. Maybe 1 there. Padding. Looks pretty good. Go ahead and publish that. Back to our live site. What do we have? We have 2 in here. It is building the pagination in there. So I actually don't need to drag it up. If I just delete, it should be in there automatically. Sorry about that one too. There we go. But you'll see it's actually put it on the bottom here, and we definitely don't want that. So let's go back into Webflow, and something we can do is within Splide. So let's inspect in the browser real quick what we have. So we have this div with the class of Splide, and then within that we have 3 children. So we have the track, the arrows, and the pagination, and we want this to be in the middle. So something we can do really easily is just the track. Actually, on the Splide wrapper, let's do flexbox vertical, and we'll center it. And then with the children, the track we will give first, and the arrows we will give last. And the pagination should just find itself in there conveniently. Perfect. That's great. I'm going to close this up. And we're getting there. Notice we don't really have any responsiveness. And I should fix the centering of the headline. Just text center that. But let's go ahead and work on some responsiveness. Now, if we go back to options, we have breakpoints. Is it in breakpoints? Here it is. So this will take us down here. Collection of responsive options for specific breakpoints. So we'll just grab one of these, copy it, and breakpoints, and we'll just get the Webflow breakpoints. So what is it? 991 and 767. So this will be 991. We'll specify another one, 767, and we'll do 2 per page there, and we'll do 1 per page there. And now, pretty easily, we have this responsive behavior. So that's very cool. And you could style however you want. So say, now that was, what did we have? It's still going to be 33%, but we can just say 50% so we see what it looks like. If we want to adjust the image now, like the height, then we could do something like that. We'll make it a little bit more pill-shaped. So that's good for now. And then come down to mobile landscape. And the width of its parent was now 100%. You don't really need to do any of this unless you want to affect the height. Let's make this kind of circular is cool. It's just so that as you're going through the designer, things look similar. Let me go back here, change the height. Sure. Publish again. Let's go back to options. Are we still publishing? Cool. So now we see we have just kind of a different responsive style, and we can control within Splide. And the pagination takes care of itself, which is really nice. Let's see. I mean, so that's a working example there. See if we want to go through any more options. Really, this is where you're gonna spend most of your time styling it to how you want it or how the Figma file has it. You'll spend some time in Webflow too if you want the image to look a particular way. Mm, but I think that's. Oh, there's some good ones actually. Let's just take a little bit more time. Fixed height. Not gonna go over those. We can set the start. We talked about that per move. I think it makes more sense to talk about that now. It's moving the whole page. We can set per move to 1. Need to refresh. And now you see it moves one at a time. So that's kind of nice. Clone status, not going to get into that. Focus. This you'll probably want to investigate too. You can set the focus to be the center. Which slide should be active? The carousel has multiple slides in a page. So usually it starts from the first one. Let's see, focus, center. So now you'll notice let's refresh again. Yeah, it's focusing like this one is the center of focus. Gap, we got on that. Padding, don't need to touch on that. Arrows determines whether to create arrows or not. By default, it's true. And we're definitely going to want arrows. Same with pagination, but that's how you could turn those off if you want. Keyboard is a really good one. I'm going to show you once we get down to keyboard. Oh, easing. Let's go over the easing function. So you can see there's, let's go add it up here. And this should be a string. Does it tell us a string? Yeah, string. So save that, refresh. So we can adjust the easing function. I think it's easing.net. Is this the one I want to show you? Definitely not. Oh man, not the green. I want this cheat sheet. I'll show you something drastic just so we can. Oh, it doesn't give me the Bezier curve for this one. You can do ease out expo. So we just grab this right here and come back here. And we have a different easing now. So you can play with that to your heart's content. I like this website a lot. Easings.net shows you, and if you hover over, it'll show you how the easing works. Cool. I'm not going to go over function. Drag is already true. We like that. We'll keep that. We don't need snap. We don't need drag min threshold, flick power. Wait for transition. Disable any actions. I'm going to leave that. Autoplay. Oh, yeah, let's check out autoplay. You can set autoplay to true. The default time is 5 milliseconds. So you'll see it actually. We have to wait 5 seconds for it to start autoplaying. Oh, come on. What happened? Loading. Well, we might have to end it here. Something happened to the internet. Oh, there it is. 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's my autoplay? There, oh, there it was. I refreshed. Shouldn't have done that. Should have been more patient. But we can specify the autoplay speed as well. The autoplay interval duration in milliseconds. So let's come here. Set it to 1000 milliseconds. Now you see it's a lot faster. Cool. Pause on hover. Just exploring how well these work. If I hover now, it's not going to actually autoplay. If I come off, starts autoplaying again. Hover, stops. Neat. Could do pause on focus too. Reset progress, lazy load. We can actually control that in Webflow. It's not going to load the ones that aren't on screen. So something you would just come into the image here, loads on scroll, just say loads with page. So not going to bother with the Splide. Preload page is not going to bother. Keyboard, I think this should be true. What this lets us do is actually use the arrow keys to work with the accessibility. So I'm pressing right and left now, not using my mouse, which is kind of cool. It's same within the pagination. So that's great. I really like that. Wheel, we definitely don't want to navigate with the wheel. I'm getting closer to the end now. Cover, we already did that with our images. Slide focus. So a lot of this stuff you don't need because you can do it in Webflow. You can set it up to be in navigation, which is kind of cool. Maybe I'll make a different tutorial on that. Trim space, if your slides are like this could actually be useful. You can set it to trim space at the end so that there isn't any free space like that, but ours isn't set like that. This changes how the isActive class updates, which could be useful if you're doing some sort of animation. Media query, we touched on that to make it, sorry, not media query, breakpoints to make it responsive. Reduced motion, this would be good if somebody has a reduced motion. Setting. So no speed, autoplay, definitely no autoplay if somebody has reduced motion enabled. You can rename the classes to whatever you want, and that's the end of options. So, I think we're good. We set out to build that slider, and we built it. Dragging, you can see how powerful Splide is, and you can make it work with your CMS. So that's all I got. Thanks. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or follow me on Twitter, subscribe, whatever it is you like to do, you can do it. So thanks everybody. Bye.